So I come from a tradition where men never entered kitchen. So my dad never ever wanted me to become a chef. I did my graduation in commerce like anyone, like you have to do a degree, or the MBA was the next option. But I love to eat food. Then I thought, why don't I pursue a career? And after graduation in commerce, everyone said it's not a good idea. But I managed to get out of Kerala. Then I went to Rajasthan. I worked in Umaidwan Palace in front office. But I luckily got an opportunity to end up at Hyatt Regency Delhi, where I trained 6 months in the kitchen, and followed by I went to Taj School Aurangabad, where I did a 2-year diploma in culinary arts. So during the training and the course, the way we have been trained is more like a labor intensive, do this kind of thing. And that went on. I worked with Taj O'Broy's. 2005 I came to UK as a chef to work. And 2007 I got the opportunity to go to Cardiff to open a restaurant. And that's where the real learning starts.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And I came to know Anand George really by accident. I received a bottle of salmon Kerala style fish pickle one day in my house. And I had no idea where it had come from or what it was, but I eat everything that comes to me except vegetarian stuff. So I opened it up. And it was the most flavorful, delicious pickle that I'd had. And I said, where has this come from? And then I realized it had come from him via his sister, etc. And I started finding out more and more. And I don't know if any of you have eaten at any of his inspired restaurants in Cardiff, including the Blue Poppadom. The Purple Poppadom. Anybody been to the Purple? Well, you must go there. It's the most. It's amazing, and it's got some of the best food. And remember to try out this particular pickle. We are on the eve in India. We're on the eve of Eid, but we're also the beginning of the Navratras, Onam. All of the spring festivals are going to start anytime soon. So, Anand, tell us what's the association between food and what we're talking about, religion and spirituality? Because if you look at any tradition, it starts with that. You're giving bhog. Presently we've got a couple of unsavory issues around bhog, for example, in some of the temples in India. Who's making bhog? What's the bhog about? And therefore, what's gone into the bhog, etc. So tell us a little bit about our tradition, and especially down south.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anand George. I'm basically from Cochin. I'll give you a little bit of background where I come from and what is my philosophy of or understanding of food. I'm in the industry for 27 years. It took me a good 20 years. When I did the book only, I understood the food, the philosophy, the emotional connection, the people. There is a connection. And that's what the religion, food, everything. And food has that emotional attachment, which carries very well. So when you talk about religion, I believe, from my very little knowledge, was brought in to bring some kind of discipline among people, to be together and build together. And there they brought customs in. So if you look at from food philosophy to the temple, the festivals, religions, it's all basis of well-being, nutrition. But it is put in such a way, sometimes it thinks that, okay, religion is on the top and the food part is below. But the principles are the same. There is an element of well-being, nutrition, all these things gone in. Garlic was added for a purpose. It was not just thrown in. Ginger was added into a dish, not because we have to have ginger. The properties which ginger gives to us, to the well-being and the nourishness, the body, and even to the antibodies and antigens we need. That's where the food has been done. But in our culinary world or in the culinary school, we are never taught that. We know that the recipes are there, and if you classically look at the recipes, there will be very few Indian recipes which does not use turmeric. But now if you talk about in the West, turmeric is one of the most important ingredients.
Superfood, like ghee.
Yeah.
Ghee is now a superfood.
The same way is moringa powder. The drumstick leaves. In my childhood, my mother used to make me a thoran. Thoran is a dry vegetable, any vegetable cut into small, stir-fried with coconut, because I come from Kerala, everything revolves around coconut. And now they have been drying the leaves and powder, and that is a superfood now. So it's again, but I believe the values it brings in, and we got a big colonial history in Cochin. The Portuguese, Dutch, the English. I always thought it was the Brits. No, it's the Portuguese. And going back to a dish called the pork vindaloo. Even the word vindaloo, it was misrepresented as to do with potatoes. There is nothing to do with potatoes there. It's the word, the Portuguese word, wine and garlic. And when the Portuguese sailors were traveling to India, it was a 6 months voyage from Lisbon to Cochin. So they carried a lot of pickled meats, which later converted into curry. But there also, when it was crafted or developed in Cochin, the local cooks added the bark of the moringa tree. So that aids digestion. So pork, even though it's considered to be a white meat, the digestion takes more time. So the reason of adding the bark of the moringa tree was adding digestion to the dish. So the elements or the particles or the ingredients were added not just because of that. The values which brings into the digestion, and even the laxative part of the food is digested as well.
Anand, you've learned much of your cooking actually doing your homework, sitting in your mother's kitchen.
So I come from a tradition where men never entered kitchen. So my dad never ever wanted me to become a chef. I did my graduation in commerce like anyone, like you have to do a degree, or the MBA was the next option. But I love to eat food. So then I thought, why don't I pursue a career? And after graduation in commerce, everyone said this is not a good idea. But I managed to get out of Kerala. Then I went to Rajasthan. I worked in Umaidwan Palace in front office. But I luckily got an opportunity to end up at Hyatt Regency Delhi, where I trained 6 months in the kitchen, and followed by, I went to Taj School, Aurangabad, where I did a 2-year diploma in culinary arts. So during the training and the course, the way we have been trained is more like a labor intensive, do this kind of thing. And that went on. I worked with Taj O'Broys. 2005, I came to UK as a chef to work. And 2007, I got the opportunity to go to Cardiff to open a restaurant. And that's where the real learning starts. I had investors who gave me the money, but I had the free hand to do the food. When I went to Cardiff in 2007, the Indian food was majorly dominated by people from Bangladesh, and it was called the curry house. And the curry house concept was when the Brits gone, have a drink, and they were halfway, they used to go and have curries, and that's where the curry was. They had dansak. The menu was like the dansak, vindaloo, patia.
Kashmiri prawn curry, whatever that means.
So they had one mother sauce, and they could create anything. But it was a very skillful job, over the chefs who created it. And they say that when the textile industry went bust, there were a lot of people unemployed. And someone created this menu. and if you see that the menu is almost the same. Dansak is again a very traditional dish served in the Parsi family when someone passes away. It's not like a dish of a celebration. So, but they put some lentil puree into it. But it was a clever business model, and the numbers worked very well. And that's where I enter into dishes like prawn moili, beef alartiyadu. And initially people said, where is the chicken tikka masala? Where is your half? And there is another thing which in Wales happened, is something called half and half. So they'll have curry with half rice and half chips. And they go half and half. Half and half, the half rice and half chips. So,
Sounds ghastly, but anyway.
but the people of Cardiff or Wales embrace that Kerala. So my stronghold is Southern Indian Kerala cooking. So a lot of the dishes what I ate home, we converted into a more like a restaurant one. Like we do a dish called the Alapi fish curry. So that's the curry which is made with raw mangoes, Kashmiri chili powder and turmeric. So the san has come from the raw mango and the coconut milk bring the creaminess. So that's one of our signature dishes. And when I said about the Tiffin Cup in House of Commons, that was the first ever competition I won in my life. And there I created a dish. It was a fish curry I did, but it was a three-dimension, because when you go to all this competition, if you look at the Master Chef and all these things, it's very difficult, because the Indian food is not like that. To bring a three-dimension of a dish, how can you make a three-dimension of a puri or a bhaji? So there is a lot of challenge. That's what a lot of Indian chefs, when they go to all these competitions, I'm scared to go, because I got two opportunity to represent Wales in the Great British Menu, but the theme is totally different. They want me to do a theme which is nothing to relate with my food or the concept. So if I go to the competition, I look like a fool. That's the way I think about it. I might be totally wrong. But my ethics of food and the way I think that the food should do the talking. Once it goes into it, it opens the senses, the flavors and the balance. And that's where the challenge in Indian cooking. If you look at one dish or the one curry, how many ingredients goes into it? From methi to mustard to garlic to shallots. But anything gone one level up, it spoils the entire dish. So it took me 27 years to understand this philosophy. Okay, why is methi added later, and the balance of the food. So a lot of the recipes we created was from a lot of the dishes I eat and I enjoyed at home, but we made into it more like a restaurant format. So we do a batch cooking, 3-day shelf life, and rather than mix and matching. So where I boil this, mix this, that doesn't have any heart and soul.
One of the criticisms that Indian food gets the world over is that they feel that the basic ingredient, the fish or the meat or the vegetable, etc., gets disguised in this currification. Whereas we know that good Indian food needs balance on all sides. So how does that then translate into, say, restaurants where you need to?
We again don't. One problem in India we normally faces the cuts of the meat. We don't have a particular. We don't say that, okay, for this curry I need only one part. A lot of times they try to throw in different parts of the meat of the animal, and the cooking time is different. So if you're talking about the rump or the silver side, their cooking side are different. The cooking timings are different. So definitely there, and the way we cook it. So, but when there are ways where we can cook the dishes without the vegetables still has got the bite in and the flavors. Like, how do you balance a sambar? It's an ultimate skill.
And every home has a different sambar recipe.
That's the other challenging one. So I've been trying, in Cochin, where I come from, I've been trying to learn the dishes. Like I left home in 98, almost 27 years ago. And the dishes, a lot of dishes I ate that time for weddings, events, or any social gatherings, nowadays I don't see. Even a good vindaloo is something very difficult to find. But when I started collecting the recipes, each individual household has got a different recipe. But understanding is, it might be the member of the household does not like mustard, or might be the social conditions of the house, so that they have omitted that ingredient, which might be expensive. So this is also one of the reasons, and there is no La Rose gastronomy for Indian cuisine, to say that, okay, this is the baseline. You can definitely change it, add it, but there is no Rogan Josh or anything, a specific recipe. And nothing is taught to us as in the school as well.
Again, in going back to festivities, one of the things that we've seen, Eid is just following Ramadan, you have Lent. You have this idea that's now common parlance, which is intermittent fasting. But intermittent fasting was built into our food traditions right from the beginning. You fasted on X days or Y days, you ate this dish, you ate that dish. You also ate local, like in Kerala, for example, coconut forms the very base ingredient of much of the cooking.
Any regional cooking, or if you go to any Michelin stars, what they say, the fresh ingredients. So the fresh ingredients is is all about what is around you, what is available, and the climate as well. So there is a community in Kerala called the Konkanis. So just before the rainy season, certain green leaf vegetables they don't eat. They eat, and the same vegetable after the rainy season they don't eat. So they say that vegetables during the rainy season has got a different composition, and the same thing after that has a different one. So the climate and what revolves around you makes a big difference to the food as well. The festivals like our major festival is Onam. The Muslims do the fasting the same way we Christians do fasting as well. But again, all these things was meant to be the principles of detox, and that's what the reason of fasting and eating certain dishes at that time of the day and not allowing to eat. But nowadays the times have changed. People work round the clock. And that's where all this intermittent fasting, and it comes as more like a marketing thing to me.
I'm going to open it up in a second because we're going to run out of time. But payasam, for example, you have different forms of payasam. You have a payasam in Kerala, which is different, say, in Bengal, which is kheer. It's different in North India. Is there, again, how do you standardize that, and how do you sort of cater to different flavors and tastes in this idea of having one thing which is available across the country, but it's so different from each place?
So from a payasam point, the content is the sugar level. So that is common in all of them. And then the consistency. So if you're making a paripu payasam, which is dal payasam, the lentils is only roasted. It is not boiled or mashed. If you mash the lentil, you don't have a texture. And more you cook the lentil, it becomes more and more blander. It'll become flavor, and you'll keep on adding the sugar into that. And after that, it reaches a level you can't enjoy or you can't taste the lentil. So when you're cooking kheer or anything, the most important thing is the consistency of the ingredient. How do you cook it? And again, if it's a milk one, you reduce the milk. So if you reduce the milk, the sweetness is already there. The same way if you have a cappuccino, if you boil when they boil the milk, if it's gone above 72, the milk burns. It becomes bitter. If it's below 63, you can have the cappuccino without the sugar, because there is natural sweetness in the milk. And that's the temperature I prefer to have a coffee, because it's not burning. So it's all about the sugar level. That's one of my dessert point. I would say sugar and the consistency, and how do you deal with ingredients.
And has Britain and its people sort of, is it time for them to have moved from chicken butter tikka masala as the national dish and experience much more nouvelle cuisine that's coming out from different restaurants across the country?
They have moved on, and the example is Cardiff. When in 2007 we struggled to sell a tasting menu for £25, we sell it at £70 today, and it's an experience. Different dishes, the samosa chaat, but you can bring. It's not a degustation menu, which they call it. And we are not breaking the samosa into, okay, patli that side, aloo this side. We still make the samosa smaller. It has got all the elements of the samosa. It has got the filling of potatoes and chickpeas, but it's made smaller and with all the flavors on. So a tasting menu is something we try to give the customer what we want to offer. And that has been the success of Purple Pompadour. It has been there for 15 years and it's been recognized as the top 10 restaurants in Wales.
And you're opening a new restaurant, or you've opened a new restaurant.
We got another brand which we do the street food, which is more like we do a Kerala fried chicken, that part. But now we are developing something new, is the sauces. Because the times have changed. I would say that the world has changed drastically after the COVID with the restaurant business. Like people working there in their own time and their space. So we struggle as a restaurant for the numbers. And the new generation of chefs is a challenge for me. To work with, their attitude is very, very difficult. It might be because of my attitude. Because
Well, send them to Voices of Faith. We can center them, give them a...
Because when I went into the industry to be trained, I never back-answered. I didn't look at the 12-hour shift. So learn, and when I train the boys, I don't do the same thing. I give them, but the 9-hour shift, in this country, the labor is the most expensive thing, and you pay by an hour. And that hour means you have to do 100% justice to it. You can't look around here and you say that I've done an hour's work. So times have changed. But still people love good food. So my new plan is to develop the sauces. Like I got few good sauces which we developed over the years. So we want to get into a packed version, which has got a 10-day shelf life. It is not in a bottle one. The bottle one is more acidic. When I say acidic means the advantage is it will give you a 6-month shelf life, but it has got no flavor. That's what when I never realized it. Still, I started doing the research for the sauces. We were making, I said, why these companies are making this like this? This is not the sauce, the curry. Like when I talk about the pickle, when you said, because we don't have any additive to us. It's basically only thing I've added is a fenugreek powder for your digestion and being oil on the top so that you don't feel a tummy irritation. So rather than, I've not added any citric acid to it. So it's simple, good, but you keep it in the fridge. So that kind of philosophy of simple eating, without adding and bringing the right thing on a 10-day shelf life is what I am looking for. And I hope by end of this year we'll be able to get the product out.
So on that happy note, any questions? At the back there, Shilpa. We will be breaking for lunch immediately after this, and then we'll resume the second half of the session.
That was fascinating. The title, Food and Healing, I feel that we're living at a time in this culture, in this country, when there's a dislocation between talking about food and the reality, because the reality seems to be that you get strawberries all year round wrapped in plastic, and people have no idea where they come from. They probably haven't even been grown. They probably haven't even seen the sun. And just, food has become a sort of parallel. When we talk about food, it's almost become like a parallel universe to the reality of every day. And I just wanted to know what you felt about that.
It's the same thing, like from food being a medicine, over the years food turned out to be poison, to be honest. So because the amount, what we do to the sand, like the fertilizers we add, the amount of chemicals we spray on the vegetables and things, that's what is going back to us. And I believe now people have realized what is organic farming or that kind of quality stuff, and you can't get this vegetable 365 days in a year, because you can't have the produce, and that is artificially produced, artificially created. And I would say or advocate for it, people should not use it, that kind of vegetables, or they should try to look at the vegetable ingredients, where that it comes from, how it is made. There is a cost element as well when you do that, but it saves your health.
Thank you, Anandji. One good point you made, these seasons, like in India, you eat particular food in particular seasons. Here you get the pieces, like workaround means throughout the 12 months actually. When my mother came, and I'm from North, and she was saying, oh, we get the peas like, it's called limona in the North actually. We can get all the 12 months. So what are the disadvantages? The frozen concept in this country, it's increasing day by day. So do you like...
Disadvantage of frozen.
Yeah, frozen food means...
There is no disadvantage as far as from the produce to the packaging. So there is a time space where if the produce, a lot of times from the production to the factory, there is a lot of time gap. And is normally how it is transported, whether it is transported in a proper refrigerated or it's blast chill straight away. If it is blast chill, like nowadays the manufacturers, what they do, once they make the curry comes out at 100-degree temperature, and it's straight away, within 3 minutes, it should go into the blast chiller. And in blast chiller, in 90 minutes, it turns the temperature down to 3 degrees. The same process with the ingredient. So if you're bringing the ingredient from where, there's a time gap, there's a danger zone for the vegetables or the ingredient, and if it is saved, so that none of the bacteria gets in. If it's frozen, it definitely stays back. And the way you use it as well, like when you defrost it, or a lot of people put in the microwave, that's all things totally unadvisable. So as far as it's done properly, blast chill there, and the shelf life there, because all these things grows through the lab, so they definitely check it.
Just the last question, Anand, before we wrap, is that in India, on every occasion, especially a religious occasion, across religions, food is looked at very specifically, and there's specific foods offered to deities at specific periods of time, and also specific things that you eat, for example, when you break your fast, if you're doing Ramadan, etc. Is there a science behind that? That this has happened, or is that tradition that's dictated what we offer and what we eat?
There is a science, definitely there is a science behind it, but to bring that science is never shown in the front. It's more that religious part of it is shown, but the principles of Ayurveda or the 3 principles of the doshas has been implemented. Whichever religion is that, they follow that principle, and definitely that is what, and based on whatever religion they follow, they put it accordingly. And I strongly believe the principles of Ayurveda is widely used, the entire religion. But it is never said as, they say that it's a part of the tradition, it's a part of the religion. And I think that's what the major sense people will believe it.
This whole idea of cooking with different kinds of oils, and the new fashionable thing that ghee is the superfood. So everything that doctors have said, you shouldn't have ghee, you shouldn't have butter. But today you're using ghee.
No, that's what, again, with the sunflower oil and the coconut oil. Years and years ago, they came with the propaganda to sell sunflower. They said coconut oil is for cholesterol, and it killed the coconut, like from how we started using sunflower oil. So a lot of the marketing propaganda and the fundas they brings in, and they say is healthy food. I would say that you have to make your own choice to understand how they're saying is true or not.
And what's your comment on ghee being a superfood and
It's
cooking with ghee?
It's very good, but there's a cost to be paid as well. So it's a very, but it's again, where does it come from, and how there are a lot of ghees available in the market, especially in UK, and I would never even go closer to touch it because it's stinky. Sorry to say that, it's artificial. There is very difficult to get the good, or you clarify yourself. We use the ghee, we use ghee very little. The reason because it's not available, and when we do it, we clarify the butter ourselves.
So you make it yourself?
We clarify the butter what we get and use it, because the ghee available in the market is not the ghee which we say that the superfood is not the one.
So ghee is not superfood. That's a takeaway from this
No,
particular
which is
session.
available.
This particular ghee. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Anand. Do visit Purple Poppadom and come back. See you after lunch.